I've seen what everyone has seen. I think she was amazing today. I think also in that second half we had a few opportunities to play forward towards her. I think we gave her the task during halftime to break the rhythm a bit more, to make sure that we kept dictating the pace of the game. I think we failed the first 20 minutes of the second half dictating the pace. We gave it a bit away, but then we took it back in our own hands. And I think what you saw from Chloe is what we see on a daily basis. I'm very happy for her as well that she can translate it. I think it was also present for her to be able to play with Mina. Mina was checking in, Chloe was getting in behind, and I think that made a difference for her as well. Obviously, I think if you look at, I don't know if it's the second or the third goal where Mina checks in, she makes that run, that decoy run, we get space in behind. That's what Chloe is very good at, just reaching those spaces in behind. So overall, I think a great job, obviously. If you score 3 goals, shouldn't be complaining at all.
You kind of mentioned it a bit there, but this is the first game with a lot of that attacking group with Brecken, Mina, Chloe, Ali all together. From an attacking standpoint, 3 goals obviously. Maybe could have had more. What did you see that was going well with that group?
I think it's exciting. I think it's good to have players that can go in a 1v1 like Brecken and like Brecken and Ali. We have players that can create depth with Mina checking in, and then you have players that can use the depth with Chloe. So I think that's what we want to do. We want to be a very dynamic front 5. We want to make sure that we're players checking in, players reaching depth, and I think that's what we showed in the first 20-30 minutes. And I think that's just a major part of how we want to play. Make sure players are available, remain available. If that means that they have to check in very low, like Claudia was doing today, I'm happy with that. Like, those are the players that we want to get on the ball, and from that point on, everyone else needs to start moving around and then create chaos. And I think Seattle had really trouble in the first 20 minutes with just reacting on a lot of rotations that we made offensively. So I think that's what we wanted to do today.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the win. Can I ask, with Brecken, was that a minutes restriction, or was there something else that you were seeing?
Brecken was supposed to play 45, so that was agreed upon before the game. I think if I would have been able to, I would have given it more. I just like her style of play, being that 1v1 player, dragging a player out, challenging her. That's what I like from players to do. So this was just a minute restriction, just making sure again that we end this season healthy and that we made right decisions. If we can do it by winning 3-0, that's good. But if we have to lose just to keep players healthy, it's just a choice you have to make at this point.
Okay. And you've been in charge now as interim for 9 matches. What do you point at and say, they're listening to me? What the changes you see from the beginning of the beginning when you got here, now that you're the voice, what do you see that's going the way you want it to?
If they listened, we would have scored more in the second half. No, I think. Just in general, like I think upon my arrival, I said that I'm someone that loves to create a good organization, good defensive organization. And I think if you look at that back 4 and how Kayla and Kate are showing up every week, not making or barely making mistakes, I think that's a huge thing. But also, if you look at the other side of the pitch, Ali today being able to press for 90 minutes, just pressing, just making sure they lost the ball in the attacking third. I think we had a few good regains in the attacking third, and I mean, that's just the most important part, is just making sure that we adapt a few small things. But listening, I think we're here to give them a structure, and then it's up to them to use the structure and just enjoy the game. And I think I saw a few players like Tejada, Claudia Zamnoza today, they were really enjoying the game. Receiving those balls from Mandy in the middle third, receiving, turning, moving forward again. I think Claudia pulled up a show. I think definitely Chloe scores 3 goals. But if you look at the assist from Claudia, if you look at how she was playing under the line to receive the ball and just remained very calm. And she was even upset when we were giving it away. She was just saying, like, just playing around, we'll be fine. I think that's what you expect from players, just to enjoy this game.
On that 3rd goal, Claudia hit a pass that beat 5 players, and that was directly off a repress where we gave it away and immediately got it back. So I guess that leads me to some quotes we heard from you talking about wanting to have dogs on the pitch. And Chloe was in here earlier talking about killing a game off, where a lot of times you think a team is done and then they can come back on you if you take your foot off the gas. What do you take moving into Angel City next week as you try to continue this winning streak?
Obviously, it's difficult because you played a team that was down to 10, but I think if you look at minutes 74, 75, 76, just being able to press and keep on pressing, I think that's just difficult for every team you play against. I think even Kansas City, even other teams like if you look at the game that we played against Kansas City, we had a lot of regains in our attacking third because we were pressing, we were going. I think that's just what we have to keep on working on. not only from a conditional point of view, but also from a game management point of view, like when do we press, when do we go out, when do we stay. Those are the points of recognition that we still need to grow with this group. But in general, I think if you look at the game that we have next week, I think we're very happy that we're still competitive. We have a lot to play for, not only looking at the playoffs, but also just looking behind us and making sure we do the right thing to keep teams behind us. I think it's a direct competition for a spot next week against LA again, and it was the same today. I think before the game we said that we were able to put Seattle 4 points behind. That's just what we wanted to do. So obviously that's what we want to do, remain competitive until the end of the season. I think the girls did it great today. Very happy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats on the win, Coach. And I'm glad you mentioned Anna there in one of your last answers, because it looked like she was just an example out there of just players having fun on the pitch. She was smiling and laughing and running up and just congratulating her teammates and all of that. I saw that from a couple of players. How much fun is this team having right now, and are they happy that it feels like kind of results are starting to go with what you've been telling them, what you've been talking to them about training-wise, that sort of thing? Like, just how much fun are they having?
I mean, it's 90 in the weekend, and to get into the weekend you have a good 400 minutes of training, approximately. And I think if those 90 minutes turn out well, then everyone's happy about the 400 minutes spent on the pitch and the training pitch. So I think that is just what makes sense to them, and I think that's a very important part, that we are doing stuff on training, and I'm looking at the whole staff. We're doing stuff on training that matters to them, and it also makes a difference. I think collaboration, Claudia, Tejada, that's not just something that happens overnight. It's something they work a lot on practice. They do it together. They have extra drills. They get into practice together. We very often put them together because we know they need to understand each other. And I mean, that's what we have to do as a coaching staff. But then the way they just react under high pressure, I think I saw Anna a few times just receiving, put her foot on the ball, turning around and being able to play forward. I mean, that's a Spanish something, I think, or a Brazilian. You can have both. I think there are 2 countries in this world that do that kind of soccer, but I think that's just what we need to encourage them for. I'm a coach that wants to play from the back. I'm a coach that wants to break through the middle. Well, if you have those players that have the courage to do it, I'm happy for them to do it. I think Claudia as well. Each and every time she touches the ball, you know it's going to be dangerous. Either she'll give a good pass backwards, just making sure she clears someone else, or she can turn and she can be lethal as well. I think you saw that on the goal. Like Mina checking in again, creating that, what was it, 4 or 5 meter spot, and Claudia hits it just perfectly. So I think that's just very exciting to see. Obviously, moving forward, I just want to encourage this team to keep on doing what they're doing at the minute, and just don't go too high on your highs, don't go too low on your lows. I think they've been very low, so at this point we just have to find that sweet spot and just remain constant until the end of the season.
Okay. Sean Moran, anything over the Zoom?
Yeah, please. Hey, Coach, congrats.
Hey.
I'm curious, first question, how many days off does Chloe get for scoring a hat trick?
She's got 36 hours and never training again, so that's also just part of, I think, it's actually a good question, but it's also just we have to give them continuity, and we just have to make sure they keep on showing up, and if we say that they cannot go too high on their highs, then we should just stick to the things that we're doing at the minute, and I think that's, few players were hinting like, oh, it's an extra day off, or we're getting anything extra, but I think it's just keep the balance, just make sure we show up on Tuesday again, and Tuesday will be slightly different than normally. We'll do a few fun stuff, we'll make sure everyone has a good recovery, but then again on Sunday we have to be there again, so we have 2 games left, 180 minutes, and that's all we have this season so far, and then we'll see what happens in the postseason. But I think those 180 minutes is what we said against the group as well. They have to define, or they have to make sure that there is a crowd next season coming at our home games and showing up every week, and I think that's what we wanted to give, a reason to show up next week. And I mean, that's up to us. That's how much energy you give on the pitch, how much you want to win, and I think this team is wanting to win a lot lately.
This will be a little bit repetitive, but I am very curious. We just heard from Mandy previous to you coming into the room that the vibe in the locker room is immaculate right now, that the women are buzzing off of this win and sitting in 10th place and this potential of a playoff spot. I'm curious, and please, we've heard you say a couple of times, don't get too high on your highs, but does your Belgian DNA, your coaching DNA, does it allow you to get excited for a potential playoff spot? Just what are your personal feelings right now? Peel it back.
The aim is the playoffs. We're not going to hide that. The aim is the playoffs, but the only way to get to the playoffs is win the next game. And I think that's just how we work at this moment. Like, we're just looking to next week Sunday, and then we'll see. But obviously, we've put the goal on the playoff spot, or at least as close as possible. So that's just remaining competitive every week. I think my coaching DNA of the last few years is, I think if we look at what we did back at home, we won a lot of games, but in the end it was that one game that you lose or the 2 games that you lose in the season that made a difference. So that's also why we're very calm as a staff as well. I think that's my influence on the staff, just remaining very calm and just providing a good structure for everyone to keep on performing, because a win is very, very, very fast forgetting about the next week if you lose. So that's just something we all have to bear into our minds and just make sure that, again, that we show up. We have to give them the energy that we would like the players to give us, and I think the staff is doing great at the minute. We're making sure that everyone is doing well. We give them fun on practice where we can, but also I think if you look at those Thursday's trainings or the Magic -2 trainings, like how the team absorbs all the information that we give them, I think we have 2 very good analysts that dive into a lot of details of games when it comes to knowing how we'll do, how will she move, how can we get Ellie free if she's doing this, like all those details, like they absorb it. I saw Ellie doing a lot of stuff today that came straight from the training ground, and that's partly because of what the staff is doing, but also just because the players want to buy into it and they believe in it. And I think if that belief is there, then we should still aim for those playoffs.
One last question for you. I know you have a lot of celebrating to do, but we've talked about this a little bit before. You mentioned it a little bit this afternoon, but it's worth repeating, especially after a hat trick. What is it that makes Chloe such a special player?
Humbleness. I think I'm 100% sure that you saw it in her interview as well. She will definitely not go too high on her highs. She's just very, very calm. She's very composed. She knows that, again, a hat trick today doesn't mean a win next week, and I think that's what she will be chasing this week. She goes to international camp the week after, so I think she's very humble. She's here to create a better group of players. I think the way she was coaching Po as well, making decisions, making sure Po was making the right decisions, offering options whenever she wasn't making the right decisions or other players weren't making the right decisions. I think that's very important. I think I remember something that she said last week on our press, and obviously we're pressing high, so we give away a few spaces on the pitch. And she said against Po, like, well, you know what, whenever it happens, don't step out. I'll make sure I have a high-speed run just to make sure I get back in position rather than you stepping out of your position because I made a mistake. I think that's just how she is. She wants to show up for the team. She had a difficult time last season, she said so. So she's here to enjoy the game. I think she's doing it to the fullest at the minute.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. Thanks, Jimmy.
Good evening.
Thank you.